You're the second podcaster and coach that we've had on, but yeah, this is great.
I'll have to go back and listen to that one.
Yeah. She was a health coach, so you're a different thing. Tell us how'd you end up in Dripping Springs?
So almost 12 years ago now, my husband got a headhunter call out of the blue. He's an electrical engineer, was in quality department at Texas Instruments, and he said, "Hey, you want to move to Austin?"
Oh, jeez. Where were you then?
We were in Dallas.
Okay.
And I grew up in Arlington, and he grew up in New Jersey, so we met at UT. So we were like, ooh, a chance to go back to Austin.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Awesome. And so I was like, yeah. But, I had my business there. I was in direct sales, and I was a leadership coach there, and I had probably 80% of my business in the Dallas metro area. I mean, it's such a huge area, and I had many people across the country, but concentrated. We had 3 kids, and all of our families were there local. So I was like, yes, let's go. But then when it came down to it, I was like, but I need this and this. And I just kept going down the line. And this company just kept giving him everything he wanted, and they really wanted him. So we moved.
How long ago was this?
That was almost 12 years ago. In November, it'll be 12 years.
Oh, wow.
So.
And did you move directly to Dripping Springs?
We did. And it was funny because we toured the whole area, and, we did the Cedar Park, Round Rock, because his business is downtown, but on 6th and West.
So I know who he works for then.
You know who he works for? Anyway.
My husband's an engineer also, so I know.
So you know exactly who that is.
Yeah.
So anyway, we circled the area.
Is this a big secret? We can't say who it is?
No, he works for Cirrus Logic.
Oh, okay.
It's a sound chip company. Cirrus Rocks.
Does he work for the CIA or something? We can't say where he works.
Cirrus Logic is like the
well, I know.
Who does your husband work for?
He works for Teradyne.
Oh, okay, very good. Yeah.
It's a small
world.
Didn't Todd work for Texas Instruments at one point?
Back in like the 80s.
Yeah. When they made those calculators.
When they first
Thank God for the calculator, though. I mean, thank you, T.I.
That's true.
Anyway, so it was kind of like coming back home for us because we love Austin and we love the Austin area. But when we traveled around with the realtor, like, where are we going to go? And we had kids to worry about, school districts. We were looking at the best school districts. Well, what was Lakeway, Westlake, all of that area was like super uber expensive for us at the time. So we were like, that's not good. So when we came to Dripping, first of all, being in the hill country, I mean, it's like coming out of Austin, you just drive down 290 and then all of a sudden you hit this place where you can start breathing again.
That's
what I mean? Exactly how I used to describe it. You'd come over the hill, you'd see the trees, it was like,
like there's not all the concrete and the cars and just all the.
It's nice.
And so we were like, wow, this is beautiful. So we looked at, Belterra. We just looked all around, and what we could find, we just didn't have exactly what we wanted. So we decided to build. So we lived in a rental property off Spring Lake Estates. And we call it the Bug House because it was a great house, but it was on 10 acres, and it was like there was a door in every room, and we were like, that's kind of weird to have a door to the outside to your kid's bedroom.
Oh, jeez.
So it was we were a little paranoid, but it was beautiful, and we loved it. It was just like if we could seal all the doors. So
There's
I'm
like
out there,
scorpions and roly-polies.
You'd be laying in your bed, and there'd be scorpions like crawling up the wall because it was, we're in the hill country. There's rocks, and we were. I'm sure we were near a scorpion den or something. But, I mean, I'm not kidding. Like 120 bugs a day. I would be.
Oh my gosh.
And it was so funny because I remember the realtor that was the property manager, nice lady, but I remember her saying, well, you guys just aren't, used to the country life.
No. I'm used to the country life. That's a lot of bugs. That's a lot of bugs.
Country folk do not have this many bugs because they seal up their doors.
I was gonna say, or they call an exterminator.
I love that you named your rental house the Bug House. Before we moved here to Dripping Springs, we lived in a rental too because we were building, and we called ours the Crack House.
Did you really?
Why'd you call it the Crack House?
Such high quality we had, Michelle. No, mine was actually great quality. It was just it needed ceiling or whatever. Like
it
there was
needed a ceiling.
space.
It was great. It just needed a ceiling.
Needed ceiling on every crevice of everything.
Gosh. We lived in a rental when we first moved here. I don't know if we had a nickname for it or not, though, Creek Road. But anyway, so you were in direct sales when you moved here. You stayed in direct sales. I
mean, I'm still technically selling some products, but I really rapidly, when I joined that company, I was originally a physical therapist. So I got my undergraduate degree in biology at UT. I thought I really wanted to be a surgeon, to be honest. I think if I had been a man, no offense, but if I didn't want to have kids, I would have stayed in school and done that. But I just was drawn to physical therapy because I think when I look back at my life, and I've had a lot of reflection.
Yeah.
I'll just say, we can get into this later, but I had 5 years. The last 5 years have been really rough. Like, I say I had 4 Jerry Springer seasons back to back.
I had that written down. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that.
That's the truth. Anyway, but when I go back and reflect, like, I've been coaching and helping people. That's just who I am. It's like who God designed me to be.
Yeah.
And it just took different forms, And I believe that's a beautiful thing about our lives is we can evolve. And as long as you know who you are and what God put you here to do, it can evolve into a magical, amazing adventure, right? It's sometimes we don't know who we are or what we're supposed to be doing, and then you can be really lost. So for me, that direct sales leap, I was a neuro rehab specialist, so I'm talking about head injury, spinal cord injury, acute care. That was my jam. And, I tried all the things. I tried pediatrics, I tried neonatal ICU, I tried all the things as a PT, and I loved helping people who had gone through something and that really was like, wow, how do I get my life back?
Yeah.
Or how do I build the life from here? If you've had a spinal cord injury and now you're in a wheelchair, how do you fix that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How do you go, oh, I can still have a great life? That's what I loved. I loved taking somebody from where they were to where their vision of where they wanted to go was. And so physical therapy, I thought, was what I was going to do for my life. And then this direct sales opportunity came into my life, and the gal was like, you should do this. You love people, and you'd be so great at it. And I was like, I don't think so. But then she said, I could get a discount. Terrible. I was like, well, I'll do anything for a discount. Let's go.
I totally get that.
I like that. I'm like, maybe I should get a part-time job at Starbucks so I can get cheaper coffee. I don't know.
Yeah. That's a pretty big leap, though, Joan, where it sounds like you had a really good career going in PT, and then direct sales is iffy.
I mean, I went from the number 3 school in the country. I was at TWU. I was number 1 in my class. I loved it. I thought it was what I was going to do forever. But when you're in the healthcare industry, and this is 25 years ago, it's rough. It was rough then because it is about churning out the patients, and it's about
now,
making money. And I was about helping people. And so I always struggled. So I ended up going from, a full-time working at one hospital to going PRN where you're on call as needed with like 5 or 6 different hospitals because I didn't want to be tied down to anyone's agenda. I just wanted to be there for my patients. The other thing that's funny as a PT was I used to clock out and do my paperwork because the paperwork is the worst part.
Oh,
sure. I remember before we had computers, it's like we were all handwriting and we had the big binders.
And you had all those walls of files and the file cabinets.
Like, find that stupid file when you're going into a patient's room and you're like, who has number so-and-so's file? And I think they're, that radiology left it there, and you got to go track it down before you can even go in there because you want to know what's going on with the patient. Anyway, so the paperwork for me was so tedious, and I would just be like, I'm doing this at the end of the day. So I would just clock out, and then I could take an hour at the end of my day and catch up on the paperwork. And then I got to spend more time with my patients. Yeah. Does that make sense? So when I got into direct sales, I wasn't passionate about products. It was a beauty industry. I wasn't passionate about skincare or makeup but I was passionate about you seeing how beautiful you are. I was passionate about helping you feel more confident. Does that make sense?
What can you do with me, Joan? Can you help me out here?
You're practically perfect in every way. Just like Mary Poppins.
Lies. Absolute lies.
We did an absolute another show for that.
Well, honestly, I think that's why I did so well. So in my first 4 months, I was in like the top 3% of the company. With 8 months, I was in the top 2%. Really quickly.
What year was this?
This was 2002.
So this is everybody's ordering stuff on the internet, and
it's changed a lot.
You had a specific person that you would order your stuff through, and because you'd go to the mall, and that was kind of intimidating. And I've had a couple of these direct sell parties, and it was nice to be able to sit across the table with somebody or with your girlfriends in your little mirror, and you would take all your makeup off, and you'd start from fresh, and so I think the biggest difference is like you're right, breaking down of how you felt, no matter.
Right. And what's interesting to me was like, I really like people go, how did you, like so many people do it and aren't successful. Like,
Yeah.
how did you become successful so fast? And I'm like, I basically did exactly what I was doing in physical therapy. I just did it in a different format, right? It's back to, I think I was designed to be an encourager of people. I was designed to help people see what God has for them and who they really are. And it's just who I am, And so I just brought that to the business. And what was interesting was, really, I mean, within my first 4 months, I had 20 people on my team. And then 8 months, I had, 40 people on my team. And it just kept growing. And so really quickly, I went from just, out there selling the products and helping customers to also helping other people to build like I have.
Yeah.
And just repeat the system. And people just kept saying, what are you doing that's magical? And I'm like, nothing. I'm doing what they tell us to do. Like, I'm really not doing anything magical.
So there was a format already for what you were doing?
Absolutely. And so, so within the first 8 months, I was in the top 2% and literally teaching other people how to build businesses all across the country.
Did they have you like up at some of their big conferences and stuff like that, just motivationally speaking?
Yes,
to
which is how I learned to speak.
And
I will tell you, because I went so quickly, that was my first experience in being asked to speak in front of a large crowd. I think the first crowd I spoke in front of was like 500 people. And I remember being on the microphone and I had this cute little charm bracelet that I had earned through my company. Like it was like all these charms I had earned in the first 8 months. And there I am on the microphone and I am shaking so bad.
Like a tambourine.
Like, the whole thing's like, it was hilarious. And somebody recorded it. I mean, had I known any of that was happening, that I had to speak on a microphone, that someone was recording, I would never have said yes. But
It would have gone viral these days.
Right. Well, I just told my story and just told everyone what I was doing and encouraged everyone. And I got off the stage and I walked to the back, literally sweating bullets.
Yeah.
And a huge line formed. And I was like, wow. And so I stood for the next 45 minutes talking to people who had just heard me speak, that just wanted to talk to me and just wanted to hear, more or get some wisdom. And I was like, whoa. So immediately I went from sort of fearing talking in front of people to going, whoa, this is a way for me to help others. And if all I'm doing is focusing on them, then it can be really impactful, which is the whole point.
well, the relatability too. I think people want to know if they're struggling, they're going through a hard time. They want to be like, oh, okay, she looks like me, she talks like me, and she's in the same business.
Well, they also want a little bit of what you have, because not everybody has that same talent. And they just want to be around you and talk to you so that maybe they can get a
Rub
little
off.
bit of what you
Yeah.
have. Yeah.
Well, and honestly, I think that's one of the downfalls of my head stuff around what I was doing was, I was able to go all over the country and start in all kinds of towns, small towns, big towns, help people grassroots. I mean, you don't, in a direct sales business, you don't have a sign out front and you don't have an advertising budget. And so you really have to learn how to grassroots grow a business. And at the same time, most of those people never intended to do a business,
Right.
because they learned about the products and learned about the business opportunity and went, oh, well, I'll make some extra money. So you're taking people that really, it wasn't like, you had Becky on from somebody with amazing talent that's just amazing at wine and food. And
But you had to have seen something in them. Like you roll into a little small
absolutely.
town. You're not just going up to some guy in a 7 or some woman in a 7-Eleven going, hey,
No.
How do you identify?
I mean, that's like saying, I sell hamburgers and I'm going to walk up to Steve and go, instead of saying like, hey, Steve, do you like hamburgers?
Yeah.
Because I make great hamburgers. Would you like to try one? That would be like me shoving the hamburger in your face and
Yeah.
be like, chew it. Which is what I think of as hard.
Yeah.
Steve, eat it. It's what hardcore salespeople do,
Right.
And the way that I did it was exactly how I did physical therapy. It was like, here's what I have. If you're interested in it, I would love to teach you about it. And here's what we offer. If there's a way, if you would like to make extra money, here's a way to make extra money. And we'll teach you how to do it.
I think that tactic or that approach is much better received these days. People feel like they are advertised to death these
And they
days,
are.
and they
And
are
they
so
are.
scared of a sale. Yeah, they are. Yeah, but they're so scared of a sales pitch. I want to circle back to real quick. You were talking about spinal cord injuries and that you liked working with those people. A lot of those people can be rehabilitated to a certain point. right?
Absolutely.
But really what you're helping them with is get the right mindset for
And
how they
attitude.
can live the life
Well,
with
and
this
the right
injury, right?
tools and the right muscle strength. And,
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, let's just face it. Like, I don't know how much percentage, but maybe 90% of life is a head game. I mean, it's a head game.
I think it's more than that.
I mean,
I think it's much more than that.
I think there's lots of stuff that happens to us, but you can't control any of that. Like one of my Joanisms that I picked up, I'm sure, from a coach, and because I've been coached myself for so many years, is that life is less of a mountain climb and more of a roller coaster ride. And if you think about that, every day you're getting up and you're strapping in, you're trusting,
well, that's
you're trusting
true.
that you're going to be fine by the end of the day. Because I mean, as a PT, I will tell you, our bodies are real fragile. And we don't realize how fragile we are and how precarious life is. But when you're around all of that all the time, you realize,
Yeah.
you see the motorcycle guy, and instead of being like, oh, that motorcycle guy almost like wrecked into us, you're thinking, that guy is going to hurt himself.
Yeah.
Because
I
seen
think
so
that
many.
all the time. I think, oh, that guy's going to be a organ donor one day. When they go by you at 90 miles an hour on Highway 290 with shorts and flip-flops and a helmet on, it's like,
Absolutely.
geez.
Absolutely. Well, anyway, so I think that, being in that field was so interesting because you also get the opportunity to see people who are living with a spinal cord injury or a traumatic brain injury or, anything, stroke, all those things. And when it's devastating, they find a way to make a great life. You can do all kinds of things with a spinal cord
I think,
injury.
well, that's just how you approach it. That's your mindset. When you
Right.
approach it, you're like, okay, this is me now. How am I going to make a good life out of this?
Absolutely. I remember one of my patients that just stands out to me in the PT world was a guy who had really bad, really terrible heart condition.
Yeah.
And he also had diabetes, and he had both of his legs amputated above the knee. And I remember walking into his room, and I'd read everything in his chart. I'd talked to his doctors. I knew exactly what they would tell me.
Yeah.
Which was, this guy's going to have to be in a motorized wheelchair. He cannot push his own chair because your arms doing that kind of work is so hard on your heart.
Okay.
Because it's very direct, right?
Sure,
We're not even doing anything through the legs. So I thought either he's going to be in a motorized wheelchair or he's going to get prosthetics. Like, that's our only options. So I walked into his room, and this is what I do with everybody. I sit down and say, what do you want?
Yeah.
Like, we're so good about telling everybody, ourselves over and over, and everyone else what we don't want.
Yeah.
I mean, we're so focused on that, but we forget to go, like, what do we want, though?
Yeah.
And so I sat down with him and his family, and I said, what do you want? And he started in on, well, my heart. But I said, we're not talking about anything the doctors have given you. I don't want anything anyone else has said. What I want to know is, from this point forward, what do you want your life to look like? That's what we're going to work on. And he was like, but. And I said, no, let me take care of the medical part. Let me worry about your heart rate and what we're doing. I'll take care of that. You take care of your vision, right? We got to set up your vision right. And so he went on to get both prosthetic legs, and he sent me postcards. Y'all, his thing was travel. So he was like, there's
That's
so many
so
places I
cool.
want to go, and I can't go in a wheelchair to all the places. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, then don't walk.
Yeah.
Change your attitude
You know
or
what?
change your altitude.
Yes,
Joan, here's
absolutely.
what's jumping out at me at that. He could have had a physical therapist that just walked in and said, well, you know what, you're going to do this and this and this because your heart, we're just going to get you, and just let him just go off into the sunset and live a crappy life. He's so blessed that he ran into you.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, seriously,
it was
though.
my privilege, though.
But-
I mean, what an honor.
Yeah, but the fact, I love that you said, what do you want from here on out? Because most people go through life, a lot of people go through life, they never think about what they really want. They think about what they're trying to avoid.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't want to lose my job. Okay, well, are you happy in your job? Are you enjoying it? Well, maybe that should be more important than just not losing the job. People focus on the negatives more than the positives.
100%.
Yeah.
So much of my job is the head game.
Oh,
It really
yeah.
is. I
Well-
mean, there's a lot more details to that, but the head game is the most important part.
Yeah. So you started this coaching business, and you went to the DSWA Coach Excellence School. Was that why you were doing direct sales, or is that
was
to set you up for what you're doing now with Dream Catalyst?
Let me just say, okay, so when I was in direct sales, I really felt like God's vision for my life was to be at the top of this company. Like, he gave me a vision that I was going to speak in front of large audiences, and there was just a lot of visions that hadn't come true, and I thought they were going to come true through that company. And like I said, I had 4 back-to-back Jerry Springer seasons.
Yeah.
Affectionately, if you know what Jerry Springer was. If you don't, Google it, because I'm sure you
Yes.
There's a lot of crazy stories that you were like, is this real? Is this real, though? And that's how my friends
That's
felt.
the way I feel when I watch that.
I text my friends, and they're like, really? Did someone hack your phone? Like, how much could one person have?
Yeah.
Because we just didn't have a lot of drama for the last 4 years. But boy, it was like COVID just swept in the drama.
Yeah.
You know? Anyway, but my whole point is, I think that time period was a time period where God just peeled away all the layers of all the things. I mean, from family members to, my husband and I separated for a while, to health problems and kind of having to come to Jesus with my health, all kinds of things. It was like everything that I could think of peeled off of me. And it was like me flat on the floor. And like, it's me and you, God. Like, that's it. Like, that's all I can count on. That's what I need to focus on. And it was a beautiful thing. It was actually a transformative thing. So as much as I wouldn't wish the 4 Jerry Springer years on anyone, I look back and go, it tremendously changed me for the better. It tremendously changed my marriage for the better. It tremendously changed my family for the better. So it was just kind of a miracle thing. So when we came to the end of that season, I was looking at what to do now. And I've been talking about the podcast for 10 years. I mean, before podcasts were really a big thing, I was like, I should start a podcast or, record conversations.
That's the same conversation we had.
Right? Because I was like, I feel like I have the most extraordinary conversations with people, and if I recorded them, people would benefit from hearing it, right? Sound familiar?
Yeah. Oh, totally.
So I was like, so in the process of doing the company, it was like, well, this would be something that would help people get to know me. I also had, honestly, a person in my life who is near and dear to my heart, just a tremendous lady. And I've probably known her for 20 years. And I found out that she was in a battered situation. She was in a domestic violence situation, and I did not know. And I said to her, this is really big. I said, how could you not tell me? How could you not tell me?
Yeah.
Like, I've helped you in so many other areas. Why would you not tell me this was going on? And she said, she texted me this. She said, I didn't want to ruin your beautiful life.
Aww.
And I was like, because she did not know I had just gone through 4 years of hell.
You talked about something on I think it was on one of your podcasts. You said there's in your mess there is a message, right?
Absolutely.
And I was reading more and looking more of your videos, and Steve and I shared with him a TikTok today about kind of faux people out there on the internet.
Exactly.
Faux self-help people.
And why do you think that so many people put on this false persona? Do you think it's for other people, or do you think it's for themselves? Because I almost think sometimes people are trying to do that, like you leaning into your friend. It's like, because if she acknowledges it to somebody that's really close to her, then she's actually acknowledging it to herself.
Well, I think honestly, the number one thing I could say after 23 years of coaching people is that it doesn't matter if you're here in the United States or you're international, because I've done that as well. I've done coaching workshops and things with people all over the world, and everybody's the same. And I think I was put on earth to tell everybody, y'all, we're all the same.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're the CEO or you're the janitor, or you collect garbage, like we are all the same.
The person making $20,000 a year has maybe not the same problems, but they have just as many problems as somebody making $1 billion a year. It's like everybody has stuff they got to work through in their life.
I'd like
Everybody
to have a billion problems.
I mean, a lottery win would be fun.
$50 million fixes a lot of things, but creates a whole nother set of problems.
Yes.
So.
Well, and that's my point is, I just think the reason people put that fake stuff forward and the social media life forward is, and the filter on, is because I think fundamentally we are all trying to be enough. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're trying to achieve in the world to prove to ourselves that we're good enough.
But it's sad to me that people think that creates something of worth, that, you know, you put some stupid video on TikTok and a couple thousand people like it and that makes you feel good. I would argue that affecting one person in your life,
Yes.
to, you know, the guy that you helped that had his double legs amputated, that's worth 1 million views on TikTok or 50 million views on TikTok. You helped one person live a better life.
Well, and I think, you know, we're set up in a system now that, you know, if you've read or listened to anything about dopamine hits,
Yeah.
like those
I know, it's
likes
bad.
are dopamine hits,
Yeah.
and this is, you know, addiction machine.
Yeah, you just
And
flip
so-
through it constantly. It's like
Right.
one after another after another.
So the
I
problem,
do it too.
that's the problem, right? Is people are looking to get the likes and the comments instead of living a life that they
Yeah.
love, and instead of embracing who they are and what they can do.
Yeah.
Well, also there's a lot of people that are just not really true to other people, and I, you know, in watching these videos, everybody's trying to be so profound and have something so something go viral. They say things, they talk for just the sake of talking. Like I was pinpointing a couple of them. When you're sleeping, you're not awake. Like, no shit.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing actually happens if nothing happens.
Yeah.
And basically, the sky is blue statement.
Yeah.
And so
what
when
was
I
the one you said? You know,
Oh,
when you get married,
Yeah.
your new spouse becomes your immediate family.
Yeah, like, yeah, oh my gosh.
Oh, geez, they're
And-
stating
Really?
obvious.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And my mother's daughter is my sister. How does that work out? But I also saw a comment that says podcast mic should be behind the pharmacy counter, which I thought was pretty funny.
You need a prescription for that.
How do you keep your message authentic and distinct? Because it is hard, though, because you feel like, you know, at times, like especially with us, you know, we feel like we have this responsibility to kind of be true to who we are, and we cut up. And I think most
It's a
people
mixture.
know.
It's got to be a mixture of entertainment, but it's also got to be a mixture. It's got to be helpful. It's got to be interesting. It's got to be.
I mean, I'll be
productive.
honest. The only thing I know to do is to be me.
Yeah.
That's kind of
To be honest, I
feel.
feel like if you're trying to be somebody or not, it's like holding a beach ball underneath the water in
It's
a
gonna
pool. If you've
bleed
ever
out.
tried to like stay on
Yeah.
top of a beach ball, it's
Yeah.
like so much effort.
Yeah.
And eventually that beach ball comes springing up anyway.
Yeah.
So, you know, my friend who reached out to me, I was like, you had no idea all the stuff I was going through. And I can tell you, but it really prompted me like, I need to do this podcast, because if people think I have a perfect life, because I do put more positive things out on social media. I don't rant and rave about things. I don't point out stuff. I mean, I started a Facebook group for women in drip, and I say, post all you want about good stuff. If you have a bad review for somebody, don't post it here.
Yeah.
There's other places that'll let you post it, but I know every business has a bad day.
Which one did you start?
Dripping Springs Women, the number 2 women connection.
Okay.
And I started that honestly because it's kind of a funny story. I was
Because
here
the number
dripping.
one connection was
No, honestly, because I couldn't get on there was a current women's group that was run by somebody in direct sales that was a different company.
Oh, okay.
And so everyone kept trying to add me to that one. I was never getting added. So I finally just said to someone, because I really, y'all, I know how to do business, but you know, making adult friends is not easy, especially for women. I
women
feel
are
like
mean. Older women are mean.
they
still.
can be.
Yeah.
They can be. But I think, you know, it comes from insecurity. But I agree with
Yeah.
you. But my whole point is, you know, Jeff would go off to work and my kids would go off to school. And here I was in a new town. And I was like, okay, well, I immediately joined the chamber. I immediately became the membership chair for the Chamber of Commerce. I did that for 5 or 6 years. And so I was doing work, but then felt kind of pathetic to be like, Michelle, do you want to go get a glass of wine
my
with me?
friend.
Yeah, can we hang out? And so I started that just because I thought, well, I can do events and have people meet each other.
Yeah.
And so that's how it started.
Oh.
And then, you know, that evolved into a networking group and blah, blah, blah. And we're kind of just now, because I'm coming out of my funk and out in the world and doing things now, we're about to revamp that group and start doing
Ooh.
events. It's just get together events. It's not a business networking. It's just a help friends connect. And we've made a lot of friendships happen in that group, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So in your coaching business now, what are the most common challenges you're helping people with these days? What's the most common things?
You know, I coach on the life side. I coach kids that are teenagers, like 15, 16, all
that's
the way
gotta
up
be
to.
hard. Jeez.
I mean, my oldest client is late 70s. So,
Almost your age.
Yeah. Yeah.
that's so mean.
Youngsters.
You look so good. So you didn't need me.
I am not almost 70. I just turned 62 a week ago. You're so mean.
Awesome.
You're right. Women are mean.
It's me. I'm mean. I'm the mean one.
So I would say on the life side, it's a lot about teaching people to look at what they want and focus on that, because whatever you give energy to grows, right? And on the business side, I would say, I'm really good at, I feel like in the business, when you run a business, especially a small business, you don't have a lot of people to bounce ideas off of.
That's true.
Or you don't have a board of directors. You don't have accountability. There's a lot of things you don't have. And so what I find is a lot of people are very passionate and really good at what they do, but they don't have someone to lift up out of the business to look at the strategy, to look at what are we doing, how are we building this, are we going the direction you want? And so, it's all the common things business people struggle with. It's budgeting, it's vision, it's marketing, it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Like if you were at a company place where you were, I don't know, going to be on the, NASDAQ or whatever, you're going to suddenly sell your stock and, be a public owned company. I'm probably not your girl.
Right.
I'm a grassroots entrepreneur, great at something, want to really be a great place in the town. That's me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
But if you want HR systems, that's not my.
Yeah, that's
I'm like, I'm out.
The scary part is I'm HR.
Are you?
Yeah.
There you go.
God.
You know
You
what?
want HR systems? Go to Michelle.
Yeah, that's right. We are our own board of directors, you and I. We sit down all the time, and we both do it with each other. I'll go, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? And she'll tell me and you do it with me too. Hey, I'm going to go do
Y'all
this.
are coaching each other. You're coaching.
We
each other.
are.
That's
I
what
just
you're doing.
realized
We
that.
That's what I do for people.
We
Yeah.
also learned something at the beginning of this year, and it was kind of an aha moment for me. Like you were talking about visiting with your friend, that was kind of your aha moment. Ours was, I told Steve, I said, I have a bad habit of, I will run into somebody and I'm like, they kind of rub me wrong. And I will go tell Steve about this interaction. And now all of a sudden,
I've never met this person and I don't like them.
Steve's like, yes. And
Isn't
he
that
does the
funny
same
how that
thing.
happens?
And it's just, we've worked together for 10 years. And
Yeah.
so, we definitely have each other's back. But it is nice. We are kind of our own echo chamber. We like it. We're the
On a
smartest
certain
people in
level.
the room.
But there have been times where I've done something and I'll run it by Michelle and she'll go, ooh, that
Right.
probably wasn't the best decision. And I'll go, and we'll talk it through and,
Very rarely he has to have those conversations with me. No, like,
Yeah, I was
I get it,
listening
though.
to an audio book this morning, and I think it was Eisenhower said this: there are right decisions, wrong decisions, and no decisions, and the wrong decision is better than no decision. Like
Amen.
not
That's the Walt Disney.
Not taking the shot is worse than
Yes.
making the wrong decision.
Walt
So,
Disney says, "Fire, ready, aim."
Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
Up on their walls when you go to Disney World.
But we're good. We're real good about also when things don't go the way we think they're going to go. We don't consider those failures. We consider those are learning opportunities for us. Okay, if that
we'll
happens
talk
again,
about it,
how
yeah.
are we gonna
Yeah,
how are we
like,
gonna do it better?
If we
next
didn't get
time?
a listing or something went kind of awry with a client or even with the podcast. Like podcast has really kind of taught us as well. Like if the interview didn't go as well as we thought it could have gone, instead of us at the very beginning, we were like, "Oh, well, that guest sucked." Now we're like, "We sucked. We did a bad job."
That was a big epiphany for
Yeah,
us. It's like, okay, if the episode is bad, that's not on them, that's on us, and that changed how we approach the podcast.
Yeah,
But,
most
Well,
definitely.
and I feel like that's if you get that from birth to death is one classroom.
yeah,
And all we're doing is learning and
Yeah.
growing. In all different ways,
Right.
in all different areas over the years. Then you can create an amazing life because you can take the past and see what you learned. You can take all the learning
Yeah.
parts and leave the rest.
Yeah.
You don't get stuck in the blame, shame, guilt.
right.
And let that weigh you down. I think that's another big thing for businesses is a lot of businesses are stuck in what they have been doing, and they're having a hard time doing something new. So that they can get to a new place,
Right.
And you really will keep getting the same stuff. If
You really
you can
will.
only grow to this
Yeah.
amount if you're doing exactly the same.
Do you ever
strategies.
coach somebody and they say, I'm just cursed or I'm unlucky and
All the
things aren't
time,
going
yeah.
my way? How do you respond to that?
Well, first of all, I go, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Our beliefs are just thoughts we keep thinking, and sometimes they're handed down to us, I had an 82-year-old man tell me that he was still hanging on to a second grade teacher who told him he was stupid.
No way.
And I was like, wow. And I did an exercise where I said, I'm going to be the teacher, and I'm going to come to you and say, I'm so sorry that I said that. I was having a terrible day. And I just went through a made up scenario for him on what that teacher might have been going through. And I apologized, greatly to him.
Yeah.
And I remember it was a profound moment because he is just, tears and, big tough guy, big tough, like, 82-year-olds today are, they're like, they're
that's
tough
true.
people.
That's true.
And this was probably 10 years ago, but I remember doing that coaching session with him, and he walked away and he said, I don't think anything's ever made a bigger difference than that. So sometimes it's just shedding light on the thinking. So if beliefs or thoughts you keep thinking, then the thinking brings up emotions, right? That's where you get the vibe and you go, right? But there's thinking involved. That's why you get the yucky feeling.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I don't think this person's on the up and up or whatever, right? So it's thinking that produces the emotions. So if you understand your emotions are just like a thermostat to your thinking and kind of like a internal GPS system to be like, whoop, Joan, something is off, you're getting angry about it. What did that bring up? Why? Then it's a clue to your thinking is all that is. But the problem is thoughts, emotions, then behaviors. And so what people want me to do sometimes.
Mine's usually emotions.
That's
well, that's
behaviors, thoughts.
Yeah.
Well, that's how you're right.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we don't pay attention to our we have whatever 80,000 thoughts a day and most of them are negative. So if that's like the weather that's going through your brain, we're not catching most of that, right?
Yeah.
It's just kind of like what's in the background. And if your background is I'm terrible and I'm a bad person or I feel guilty about blah, blah, blah.
Exhausting.
It's exhausting. And how do you break that cycle? Well, first of all, you have to shed light on that's the cycle that's happening, right? That's what's happening. And then you have to go, where did that come from? And was that even a thing? Like I said in one of my episodes, like when I was 4, I remember sitting at the kitchen table and we were sitting at a bar for whatever reason. I don't remember why we didn't have a dining room table. I was 4, but we were sitting at a bar stool counter, and it usually was my dad, my mom, me, and my sister, and I was the youngest. And so my dad was, hardworking. My mom stayed home, so he would come home, long days, plunk down. Well, I got the idea in my head that I wanted to be sandwiched in love. Like I wanted to be between my mom and dad.
Aww.
And I am a talker. I don't know if y'all can tell.
Yeah.
I think all podcasters are talkers.
That's good.
Anyway, so my dad came home from a hard day, and we have dinner. And at the end of the dinner, in fact, when he sat down at first, he was like, Joan, you need to move over. And I was like, no, Mom told me I can sit here. I mean, I could see it from my eyes. You know what I mean? From that moment. And he said at the end of dinner, he was like, we're never sitting like this again. Now, what happened during the dinner, I don't remember. Probably we were cutting up and I was probably doing this, and who knows, I could have fallen out of my chair. I mean, who knows what chaos ensued, right? But in my 4-year-old brain, I interpreted that as I'm not enough because my dad doesn't want to sit next to me. That's so dumb. But that was my earliest memory of when I decided I wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And I had to go through that. I had to go like, oh, well, that was a child brain deciding what my dad's actions meant. As an adult, I totally get that,
you
right?
know what the common thread there is between both those stories you told is that we care so much about what other people think about us.
Amen.
Well, I mean, it's your parent too. Like it's
Well,
your
I know,
first
but I know,
initial,
yeah,
it's your formative years.
It's true, but I mean, we spend a lot of, you were talking about 80,000 thoughts a day. I bet 20,000 of them are, does that person like me? Did I offend them? How come they didn't smile to me? I smiled at them. It's just like these stupid little things. And I bet almost 100% of the time we think we know what that person's thinking, and we have no clue what they're thinking or what they're going through.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I'm pretty good at I'm pretty good at picking that up. Joan, what do you think that is the one thing that most people get wrong about following their dreams? Not what they get right, but what is the thing that they get wrong about following them?
I mean, I think they get stuck on the past and their past accomplishments, their past failures, and I think they're also, I mean, a lot of times it's not just fear of failure, it's fear of success. So a lot of time it's just thinking. I mean, it's all thinking. Let's be clear.
Funny you should say that because my daughter said, I think I girl bossed too hard. And I was like, yeah.
Well,
I think you did.
identifying, Joan said it, identifying is the first step.
Light is the biggest step. Yeah, it's the biggest step. Once you shed light on something, you can't unsee it, is kind of how I look at it. And I look at it as having insights. You can only see so much from the ground, but if you lift yourself up a story, and now you look over the balcony, you can see a different view. And if you go up 10, you see a different view. And so what happens is you start unlocking some of your thinking is you start going, wow, that was just made up by
Yeah.
my 4-year-old brain, and it wasn't actually real. And then I've spent the rest of my life sticking "I'm not enough," all these incidents into the "I'm not enough" folder in my brain to make meaning out of it. And here I am, not feeling good about myself and worrying about what people think of
Yep.
me. And do you see what I'm saying? So a lot of what I do is helping people see that there's thinking, and that thinking doesn't necessarily need to be true. And maybe at one time it protected and served you, but it no longer serves you in what you want to accomplish now. Does that make sense? So it's such a privilege what I do. It's such a blessing because, and I don't know, how to explain it to you, except that I think it's just what I was supposed to do. But I have this weird ability to sit down with somebody, hear their story, and then see those insights and then point them towards it. I can't give them the insight, but I can point to the insight. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because it still has to come through your own thoughts and emotions and then behaviors.
Yeah.
So
When you coach people, do you coach them how they can make little changes that can affect their life overall? And if you do, what kind of things do you normally tell them? Because a lot of times you tell them it's too big of a goal, they just get overwhelmed. So you get little increments. So what kind of stuff do you tell them?
Well, I start with, what do you really want to accomplish, right? Because, again, most people don't know what they want. They haven't thought about dreaming again.
So if you asked me that and I just said, I want to make more money, is that not
then
specific
I would say,
enough?
That's awesome. Is $1 enough?
Yeah.
How about
Yeah.
one more dollar?
Yeah.
We have to go deeper than that.
Right.
And then we have to go into why. Why do you want to make more money? What is that going to do for your life? What is that going to do for your family? What is that going to do for your community? What's that going to do for your church? A lot of times the why isn't even big enough for them to get into action.
Yeah.
But a lot of times there's some kind of limiting belief that's behind the scenes that's been ruling the show, which is why they never got there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I jokingly say people hire me to get them to do what they don't want to do.
Yeah.
Or can't seem to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For whatever reason, but they're not really sure why. In business or in life.
I feel like there are times when people go to a life coach and they should really be going to a psychiatrist.
Amen.
And
That's true
I
too.
agree with that
That's
too.
true
I have seen that too, and I have actually seen even worse than that, or more than that, people that have gone to these life coaches for so long that life coach is messing with them.
Yeah.
Well, enabling, messing with their
Yes.
psyche.
Yes, I agree with that. I one of my things is I don't make you sign a contract because I believe that it's a monthly thing or a group coaching situation, and if you're not happy with it, you shouldn't be stuck with months of paying
Right.
and you don't get anything for it. I also believe that you shouldn't have a coach forever. And I know some people
agree,
argue with me. They argue with me. They're like, no, I love my coach. And I'm like, listen, if you're dependent on your coach, that's a problem.
Right.
This is the PT in me.
Because if your
you're
coach
gonna
is
make
doing
me
the
come
job,
back,
they're gonna
yes.
you're gonna go fly.
I mean, you don't
bird.
see a physical therapist say, well,
Yeah.
you're going to come in for PT once a week for life.
For the
That
rest of
doesn't
your life,
happen.
yeah, it doesn't.
If I'm not teaching you how to build the right muscles and get where you want to go, don't see me anymore.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be an ongoing thing.
It's not your
It should
body.
be
I'm
a
glad that you
seasonal
said that. Yeah.
deal. Yes. And I don't understand that, why people would coach somebody forever. I have to talk my clients out of, I literally had somebody, I was like, okay, we need to talk about the exit strategy here for me because you're on track. You need to go fly and execute. When you get stuck again, then you come back.
I think I know why people are doing that, though. I think they do that because being in a circle of friends. We talked about an echo chamber. This life coach is telling them what they want to hear. They're giving them little bits of here. Go work on this, but for the most part, they're not telling them the real hard stuff.
Well, and if you don't get down to the roots,
Yeah.
what are we doing? If we don't get down to really, because we're not changing the overall picture of your life, which to me is why I can't really, people are like, well, you mostly coach businesses. And I'm like, okay, well, I do both though.
Yeah.
Well,
and
but
if I am coaching you as a business, there's life in there because you're a person.
I do hear what you're saying in that sense, but I feel like there are times that coaches have gone outside of their scope of, I guess,
totally.
expertise, where they should really be referring these people
Yes.
to something. You need, okay,
and
if I'm
I'm such a
regressing you
believer
back-
in
Yeah.
therapy
Yeah.
and yes,
A life
I'm
coach
such
is
a
not
huge
that, yeah.
proponent of that.
Yeah.
If you have emotional trauma that you need to work through and we identify it, I'm the first one to go, you need to go see a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
We need to take a break.
Right.
I'm to the point where you've worked through some of that. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to not have limiting beliefs and
Yeah.
things that we're going to point out. and if you have underlying trauma that you need to go work through, you need a professional, right? You need a licensed professional that does that for a living. But if you want accountability, if you need somebody to help you have the insights, if you need somebody, I just say all the time, here's where you are, here's where you want to go. My job is to hold both of those for you and be on your side.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I do.
Be your advocate for it.
I'm rooting for you, I'm cheering for you, and I'm helping you see your way through it.
Yeah.
And when you're in business by yourself, you don't have that, right? So it's interesting because I have a lot of parents call me about their kids. And just recently, I've had a lot of high schoolers and college kids, and they'll say, I don't know if they need a therapist or if they need a coach. And I just ask more questions like, what do you think the problem is? Where do you think the problem comes from? And a lot of times I say, let me meet with them for one session. I won't charge you a thing. And let me see if there's a point at which I think this needs therapy, medication, deeper therapy, I will say that. That's my point, is to help them.
Do you think that's coming out of your PT brain
Absolutely.
also, where
Oh,
you're
I'm
like,
sure it is.
okay, so
Absolutely.
here's my scope of expertise,
Yes.
right? And if it's beyond that, it's like, no, you really need to go see your neurologist. You
Yes.
really, there's something underlying. And so I think that there are people that have just kind of popped on scene and they're calling themselves life coaches, where, I mean, there's
Well,
some of
or
these
they
people, I'm
did-
like, look at your life as a
Yeah.
freaking hot mess. I'm not going to take advice from you.
It's
right?
so true.
Like, are you serious?
I agree. Or your life looks so perfect and you haven't been through anything.
True.
Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
well, that's true.
It's
Yeah.
like, do you really want the coach that really hasn't been through anything? I don't know that you do. You probably want somebody who's been through some stuff and come out the
Yeah.
other side
That
and
can
done
teach
well.
you the coping skills for how to do that. Yeah.
Right.
The one of the things that's you made me think about is that human beings are wired for predictability. And so we want to buy the same foods, and we know what's going to happen tomorrow. And we want to know we have enough money for retirement. We want predictability, but growth and change don't come when you're in a place of predictability. And and what you're doing is breaking people out of that predictable.
Well, and the other thing that I feel like you'd ask me, what are some of the things that I tell people or, give advice on generally. And one of the things is that roller coaster ride I was talking about.
Yeah.
Like, life is going to be a roller coaster ride. So if you're, on the way up the mountain and it's going click, 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 and you're scared, and you're like, oh no,
Yeah.
and will I reach the top? And what if I don't reach the top? But if I do reach the top, there's all this pressure, and then I have so much, all the things, right? All your thought spiral. And sometimes you're going down into the valley, and sometimes you're on the twisty turns. And so the problem is, we think it's going to be predictable, but it never is.
It never is.
It's a ride.
Yeah.
And so you have to understand that whole roller coaster is literally on a ship that is peacefully flowing down the river.
Yeah.
And if we don't stop, so that's one of the things I would say, blanket statement for everyone. If you don't stop and have quiet time, if you don't have time in every day where you put everything away, where you have nothing. I mean, you could sit in nature, you could put your AirPods on with white noise, I don't care what it is, but if you are not emptying your mind and touching peace, like, how
It's
can
very
you
elusive
operate in
these
the
days.
world?
It's very
Yeah.
elusive. Yeah. I have a hard time finding that for
A
myself.
lot of people are just exhausted because all they do is input, 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 and then they're trying to perform, and then they cope with drugs or alcohol or all the addictive things, right?
M&Ms.
M&Ms, yes. There's nothing wrong with M&Ms,
Bluebell.
Michelle.
I mean, come on.
Joan, what is
S'mores.
one of the things that you've, I guess, lesson that you've learned about yourself by putting
Oh my gosh.
yourself out there? So, I mean, it has.
Well,
have
you mean
sat with
just
a client?
since this with podcasts, or you mean as coach?
Just in general, like you've sat in a space with somebody and maybe you felt like, wow, I got more out of that session than they did.
Well, I think, again, like, my whole philosophy is we're all learning and growing. So it doesn't matter what I'm doing. Like, I always feel like I'm learning. What's happened, though, over 23 years of coaching people, right, is now I learn quicker. So we were talking about the emotions that you were like, I get the emotions and then the behavior. I mean, I've been many a day, mid-bag of M&Ms, like, why? Oh, I'm eating M&Ms. Why am I doing that? Right? Or emotional state that I'm like, why am I so angry at my husband? He's done nothing wrong. But there's some thinking there, right?
Yeah.
So, yes, I mean, seeing what everybody else is dealing with and being more objective and being able to see it for them absolutely has given me more and more insight into my own things. And so now, and I always jokingly say, I don't want to be mid-bag M&Ms. I'd like to catch it in the emotional state so that then I can be like, what am I thinking about? And refocus. But I will say that one of the biggest things that I see more of is, if we're looking at this beautiful green drapery here, and or teal, and this is the wall of shame for me and my past failures and that's what I'm looking at all the time, right? The biggest lesson I learned was how to stop looking at this, which a coach had taken a pen and he was like, if you want to stop thinking about something, you just drop the pen. And I was like, yeah, but when you need money more than you need air, how do you stop thinking about, I need money? I wake up thinking about money. I eat lunch thinking about money. I, go to the gas pump thinking about money. How do you stop thinking about that? And so for whatever reason, it worked for me to go, this is the wall of I need money or whatever. I'm not enough or whatever your problem is. I need to create a wall that I want to go towards. So, I can't remember who it was, maybe Tony Robbins. Somebody was learning car racing. And when they were learning car racing, the instructors told them that the car will go whatever direction your head and your eyes are turned towards, right? I was going to tell you that
analogy, yeah.
So to me, that was the biggest real, oh, wow.
Yeah.
For me, too.
If you're looking for it, you're going to find it.
Yes.
Well,
if you're looking for bad people, if you're looking for people that are going to rip you off, if you're looking for, being in poverty, no more money, you're going to be around people with no money.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just, we create it.
Yeah.
So if you realize that you're creating your life, and in my mind, it's not manifesting, it's co-creating, because it's God's in there. It's God's will too, and his lessons for us. So I'm like, it's co-creating. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. And even, you're talking about the roller coaster. The roller coaster is what makes life fun.
Yes.
It's like,
yes,
okay, I'm having a great day. Things are going great. Okay, and the next day really sucks. Well, that really makes you appreciate those really good days.
Exactly.
That's what makes it fun.
Exactly.
The other thing, when I was younger, I mountain biked, and an instructor told me, you're going down a trail. The left side of the trail is all nice and smooth, and over here there's big rocks and gnarly and ditch. If you look at that ditch, that's where you're going. You'll end up right there on your head. So that's a way to think about life too. Focus on the good stuff, not on the bad stuff.
What's the most frustrating thing to me is I have a friend of mine who just always lives in the negative, always, and no matter what. Yeah, you're looking at me.
You're not talking about me.
No, not you. Not you. You're not my friend.
I know. I don't.
Steve is back in there. What's your opinion of me, Michelle?
I don't live in the negative. That's a bad place.
No,
I avoid it at all costs.
But no matter what you tell this person, they continue to live in the negative. And I told her one time, I said, look, this is just a season of life. You're in the hardest season of life that you're in right now. In the midst of raising kids and adolescence. And I can tell you from this side, I was there. I'm on the other side. And just know that this is a season. And it just goes right over their head. Mm-hmm. And so I've decided that this year I'm no longer participating in the negative. I'm a fixer. I'm a fixer of people. I love to get the underdog, and I like to mold them and shape them and fix them and send them on their way. This person to me right now is unfixable, and I'm tired.
They're not
of the BS.
unfixable. They're not ready to do better.
But
is what it is. They're fixable.
But they may be fixable,
but not by you.
By their own time.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm not participating in the drama anymore.
Well,
because it's a life suck.
It's called codependency.
Yeah.
and that's really, I mean, if you've ever been through Al-Anon, I feel like everyone should read some Al-Anon books if you haven't, or Codependency
I did when
No
I was
More.
a child. I went through Al-Anon.
There you go. Well, I mean, it's a really big deal that we try to control and fix, and it's because we're back to predictability, right? We want everyone to do well. We want all our kids to be, on the path that they should, and we don't control any of that. And so recognizing what you do control and what you don't control, which is exactly what you just did. You're like, I'm trying, and she's not letting me help her. My funny word is, don't be an asshole.
Oh, yeah.
Asshole. Have you said that before? Right, because if you don't really want the advice, don't ask.
Yeah, that's true.
Don't ask me. Don't ever ask me.
But then when you're the person that's asked, you have a responsibility to tell the truth. Well, unless it's somebody you don't really have a relationship with.
What was the thing I talked about last week about if you can't change it in... What was it? If they can't change it in 30 seconds, then don't say it all. If their zipper's undone or their shoes untied, but if it's their appearance or their smell or something like that, especially to not necessarily close people, but strangers.
Sure.
You shouldn't really be saying something.
Well, and back to, you own what you control. and you
Yeah.
don't control what people think, and you don't control how they feel. There's nothing you can do to make them feel a certain
it's
way.
so freeing,
Yeah.
though, isn't it? Like to
It's
feel
amazing.
like I'm at that point in my life, and I honestly, I've probably been like this for 2 decades, where I'm like, I don't really care what you think about me. I don't really care. I don't.
Yeah.
I really
It's-
don't. And I've got enough friends.
It's very freeing to get to that point.
It is. Well, and I would go back to your friend. So I believe everybody is literally innocent, and they're a product of the thinking that they have right now. And your friend is stuck in some thinking. So the best thing you can do for her is visualize her as who you know she can be, and hold that vision of her for her. And that doesn't mean that you're going to lecture her, but like when you picture her how you know she could be. Or how she, like better than she used to be.
Yeah.
And that's the best advice I could give you, because the thing is, they have to want to change. And that means they have to have enough hard knocks or enough wake up calls or enough, come to Jesus moments. And they end up flat on the floor like Joan did.
Yeah.
Going, oh, I get it now.
Do you think that some people are just comfortable in the uncomfortable, though? Do you think that that's where they
I think
that's
people
where
that
they
are extraordinary, like overachievers are uncomfortable. They love the uncomfortable because they're always trying something new. But I also think there's a lot of people who would rather stay in pain because it's what they know.
Well, it also gives them a chance to give reasons why they don't have to actually get stuff done. It's like, you can't expect me to do that. I've got 2 kids at home, and one of them has the flu, and then the next day, so you can't expect me to do that. I just had such and such happen, and that gives them an out for just being holed up in their predictability.
Well, and that's the beautiful thing about what I do, because my job is to help you be the best person you can be, have the best business you can be, have the best life you can have, because we are all connected.
Yeah.
Like, I think of us as, all threads in the tapestry, and we need you doing well.
Yeah.
We would like for your friend to be doing well, because it will help so many other people,
Right.
because we're so connected, right? So that's a beautiful thing about it, but it's also not something you control. You only control you. So if you keep being your best self, you keep working on your own stuff, learning the things you need to be learning, that's the only way to help somebody else. It's actually
Yeah.
the only way to help them, is for you to better yourself.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I also think that there are some people that are in your life or that you come across that don't like to be around happy people, that don't like to
Absolutely.
be
We see
around
that a lot.
happy
Oh, wow.
marriages,
Yes.
happy kids. And I've had this experience too. The more, I was in the dirt with the 16, 17-year-old daughter where I wanted to choke her out, and I didn't think I was going to make it out alive. And, we're practically best friends now, and I have people it's like, oh yeah, we know your kid's here, your kid's
I actually think
that.
it's worse than that. There are people, and I don't know how you break them out of this, that dislike you just because you're doing well and you're happy.
Absolutely.
The only reason is because you're okay with who you are as a person. They dislike you. That's sad to me.
I remember saying to my husband, this is 20-something years ago, when I was really accelerating in my business, and just everyone was like, what are you doing? And I'm
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? Because I'm not
Right?
doing anything special.
Yeah.
I'm doing the plan.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
That sounds terrible, but that's kind of what I was.
Yeah.
And because I really wasn't I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing what they told me to do. And my husband said, because I just got to this place where I could see it turn. Like, everyone was like cheering, like, oh my God. I was inspiring. And then all of a sudden it was like, like everyone got kind of little like that. Like, just that nonverbal. Do you know what I mean? Where you walked into the room and it was kind of like, And I was like, oh no. And he goes, Joan, what makes you think that they weren't thinking that already? Like, there's a bunch of people that are already thinking that. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, you're probably right.
What was the thing
Like,
that
why do I worry
Lisa
about it?
said?
Do you know Lisa Sullivan? She
At the
she
city.
works at the city, but she said 25% of the people love you, 25% of the people hate you, and 50% don't even think about you. And if you start to think about that, it's like,
Yeah.
you know what? It's okay. 25% of the people are not going to like me no matter
Absolutely.
what I do, and I'll be okay with that.
Well, and you guys are podcasting, so you get this. Like, I was terrified in the beginning because I thought, oh, I'm going to say something, or, I'm a Christian. I'm going to have my Christian beliefs out there, and people are going to hate me. And all of a sudden it happened. Somebody, the first time somebody cussed me out on a message, I was like, wow. And then I thought, like my first thought, of course I am a coach, but my first thought was, oh, I reached somebody outside of my circle.
That was exactly what we had.
Like,
We
I
had
have
somebody that
haters.
complained
That's
about.
awesome.
Yes, we had the same thought. Joe,
That's so cool.
we were like, wow,
That
people are
means you're
paying
reaching
attention.
people. Yeah, that's
Dustin
awesome.
from Austin.
Yeah, we had Dustin from Austin gave us a 1-star review. It's like we had,
that's how you know you're getting there.
I know.
Though.
Yeah,
That's
you have 100
cool.
5-star reviews, and then one guy, Dustin from Austin, is like,
But isn't it funny how all we did was flip our thinking on that?
yeah.
It's not like that thought
it's
isn't
true, because there
normal.
are people that are out there like, 100 people liked us, but that one guy, Dustin, he was really upset. You're like, "Pah."
People are assigned to you is the way I look at it.
Yeah.
They're assigned to you and your mission, your business, your real estate,
Yeah.
your podcast. And if you understand that as a business, like my customers are there, like my job is just to go discover them.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, are they there? Am I going to have some? Well, if you have a good product or service or, company, you're going to be fine.
It's funny. When we first started, we were so hyper focused on our numbers, or your numbers. And I remember like the first podcast we put out, which was awful, by the way.
Yeah.
But
The first 5 or 6 were
Thank
pretty
you, Mike
bad.
Coble, for trusting in us. But I remember I was like, oh, if 10 people outside of the people that we know
That's so
listen,
funny.
that is just amazing. And then, our numbers continue to grow and grow. And I remember there was like, I don't know, I think we were like 10 podcasts, 5 or 10, because the way our podcasts work, people, they
We still have people that go back and listen to episode 1.
They
yes,
keep going.
yes,
Yeah.
me too.
And I told Steve,
So
I said,
cool.
where in a room, like he was like, oh, only 500 people listen to this podcast. And I said, where would we have been where we were in front of 500 people in a room?
Who
and
came into that room to sit
Exactly.
down and listen to
Listen.
what we had to
And-
say. And now, there's thousands and
Yeah.
thousands. You're like, wow, this is the only platform I would have that potential.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
such a cool platform. I
Yeah.
totally agree. But it is like, putting your head on a shopping block. At least that's how I looked at it at first. I was like, oh
But-
no, someone's going to hate me. And now I'm like, oh no, that's
I
good.
can tell you there was no predictability when we started this. We got
How long ago did you guys start this?
this is our
fourth.
We're in our 4th year.
Yes.
So yeah,
That's awesome.
3 years ago.
I can't wait to say I'm in my 4th year.
Yeah. It's been a wonderful journey, and it's almost like Michelle and I consider this almost like our art. Like if you paint for, like you were talking about finding peace, this is where we do our art, and
Yes.
this is usually the highlight of my week. So
That's awesome.
I want to ask you about your podcasting on YouTube. What do you like about doing that, and what do you dislike about doing it?
Okay, well, what I dislike is that I have to be on video.
You don't like that?
I hate being on video, but my person that does the editing and everybody needs a Holly is her name, Holly.
Oh, yeah.
Filter. She's so great. She's like, Joan, I have to cut this into pieces. Like this is how we do social media. And I'm like, do we have to? I don't
Oh, I've seen that, the clips. I've seen the
Yeah.
clips
my
that
God.
you're doing.
And
yeah.
I will say, if you see my clips and you look like I'm on drugs, like the thumbnail is me like, "Whoa," like this. She says, like, I've tested this. If you
Yeah.
look perfect, people won't click on it. But if you're like, people will click on it. And I'm like,
I
okay, I'm
think
letting go of
that's
that.
true.
I'm letting go of that.
Well, we're very critical of ourselves,
Oh my
and
gosh,
most people
yes.
don't. They don't even think the things that we.
But honestly, YouTube as a format, I haven't had enough out there to really give you a judgment. Like, do I like Apple Podcasts? Do I like Spotify? Like, we're just putting it out on everything
Yeah.
and trying to gather momentum and viewers and subscribers and all that stuff right now. And honestly, this is the year that my husband and I got back together. This past year, 2024, was the year that we healed and God transformed our lives and our marriages and our own health. And we had a lot. I had 2 kids go to college freshman year.
Wow.
I had, so I had 2 seniors in that year. It's been a lot. So when I look back at it, we were talking about this before we started recording, that, I was like, I want to be doing weekly, and we're on path to do that. But like, I'm still putting that track record in place
Right.
where we're just like, every week we got one. And y'all were saying that's the key.
It is the key.
It's the key. You gotta
The
do
number one
everything
thing we
consistently.
read about when we started this was consistency.
Well, and I just look back on my last year, and when I think it through, I'm like, I can give myself some grace for last year, because I started a company.
Well, yeah.
I started 2 companies, really, because of the podcast and the coaching business,
Yeah.
and healed my marriage and sent 2 kids to college. And, you know what I mean? That's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a hard
So-
transition, right at that time where you're kind of becoming empty nesting, and you're like
It's
trying
exciting,
to
though.
find back. You're like, oh, this is the person I married 20 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's big.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. And there's a lot of us in that boat right now.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of friends in that boat. But it's a beautiful process. And it's so exciting to me to go from being a parent, which I kind of think as, like the rule keeper, the prison keeper,
Yeah.
to being a coach.
Bad cop. My husband was good
Right?
cop. That's what I said. Yeah.
Well, and I'm like, I'm a really good coach. So it's kind of really fun to be in coaching mode and not in like, oh my gosh, worrying about my control and how safe they are
Pick
and all
up
the
your
things.
freaking clothes and
Yes.
empty the dishwasher.
Yes, all
Yeah.
the crap stuff. Yes, it's really cool to see them adulting and thriving.
Wait
and
till you get on this side, the grandparent side. It's so
I'm really excited about that, even though I want it to be a little far away. They're too young right now, but I can't wait for that.
It's fun to be able to watch something that I have, like lessons I instilled in my daughter, and like all of a sudden she's getting it. And I remember this past weekend, I was sitting with Kendall, and I was like, "Remember when you hated me?
Yes,
Remember?
remember when you thought we were enemies?
Yeah.
You thought I wasn't on your side.
Yeah.
That conversation with my daughter.
Joan, we're going to do your rapid fires here, but before,
Yes.
I don't want to forget this. How can people find out more about your coaching?
So dream-catalyst.com is my website.
You have a nice website.
And thank you. Joan at dream-catalyst.com is my email. They can email me. And of course, they can look me up, Dream Catalyst podcast on any format, pretty much all the formats. You can look that up. And we've got 13 episodes out so far, and we've got a few coaching bits in there too.
Okay.
So there's 15 or 16 things out there. And I would love to, I do a free sit down with people if they're interested to make sure we're a fit. And then we go from there.
Yeah.
And we figure out, are you a group coaching person? Are you an in-person coaching? Do you need to do a workshop with me? I also have some really interesting networking events that we're going to be doing quarterly that are just different. Like our first one is going to be a speed networking, but I'm going to do a little worksheet for each person so that you walk in. Because one of my gifts is networking. Like business networking is how I learned to build people's businesses all across the country. Like if you don't have an advertising sign and you don't have an advertising budget, you have to find people that know about your business that are willing to connect you to others, right? So business networking is just, that's one of my main workshops is
Yeah.
advanced sales and networking workshop. And it really actually started at the Chamber. I don't know if y'all remember that, but we started, I basically wrote Chamber 101, which they still have.
Oh, yeah.
And then I wrote the second piece of Chamber 101, which is all about networking, how to build your 60-second commercial, what networking is all about, how to get the most out of it. And then that was so popular, we had like other Chamber people coming to find out what we were doing because we were developing these people that were really into the Chamber and
Yeah.
really wanting to go to everything and,
Right.
and really actually get to know people and dig deeper. So then we did Chamber 202, which was, okay, now you've got the basics in place, but are you getting business from it? Are you getting it? Are you giving it? So anyway, I took those two workshops and it kind of mushed them into one advanced sales and networking workshop where we talk about mindset, we talk about networking skills and all that jazz. So anyway, so what I said to my clients this past fall was like, I want to do a quarterly networking event where I want all of you guys to come in. I'm going to take, I'm going to invite the master networkers that I know in this town. We're going to bring them all in one
That's
space.
amazing. You need
Yeah.
to let us know when that is.
I'm
We'll help
excited.
promote
Yes,
it.
I
and
would
we'll,
love for you to come.
Yeah,
Yes,
we would
I'd love
definitely
for you
want to
to
come. So
It'll be
would
fun.
cool.
do your rapid fires.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
What is your favorite podcast you listen to besides your own?
Oh my
and of course ours. But like, what's
I
your?
listen to so many. I mean, Joe Rogan's fun.
Yeah.
I like Mel Robbins. She's a great one.
Oh, there's some controversy with her right now. with
Is there?
Mel
I don't
Robbins.
even know what's
Yeah.
going on.
Oh, I have
See,
to
I'm
look
really
that
bad
up.
I'm really bad about watching the news. Like,
Yeah.
I like watching y'all's podcast because y'all tell me everything that's going on.
I do like Mel Robbins though. She has some really.
There's some good stuff, and that her Let Them book is
Yes.
very good if you haven't read that. But I mean, I listen to so many. I listen to a million things about health. I mean, I just listened to a podcast. I've been carnivore, which is all meat, which sounds crazy because I was vegan for 6 years. But
Wow.
long
We didn't
story,
even touch-
I had Crohn's disease and healed myself from that. I was diabetic. I had sleep apnea. I had to come to Jesus with my health.
You were
thing.
diabetic on a vegan diet?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Did you know?
Tell
Because
everybody?
Oreos are vegan.
Oh, yeah. Gosh. geez.
Bread is vegan.
When you were
I'm just
vegan,
saying.
did you tell everybody you were vegan?
I did because it was better health wise for me than the SAD diet. I mean, the
No,
standard American
like,
diet.
like there's the
Oh
judgy
no, I wasn't
vegans,
like the judgy
that.
vegan.
Yeah.
No, but I was like when people were like, "What are you doing? You look great." I was like, "Oh, I'm just."
I'm
and now I'm the
starving.
opposite. I'm like, all those years of fiber, and now I found out how bad fiber can be for you.
Yeah.
So I have a bunch that I listen to. I listen to a bunch of carnivore podcasts and a bunch of health podcasts. I just got a book, Super Gut, by Dr. William Davis about the microbiome.
What was the one that?
Good energy, Dr. Casey Means. That should be your
Okay.
next
Ooh.
read.
But
I'll
don't
listen to
read the
that.
last part because he
Yeah,
says
it
it's
I
gets
like
woo.
podcasts and reading are my two things.
Yeah,
like
me
I
too.
just love
Well,
it.
that leads me. What is your favorite book of all times that you can read again and again and again?
I mean the Bible first, but
Okay.
my favorite book that I read over and over. There's so many. For business, I love the 12-week year. We were talking about goals. The 12-week year is a great one because he talks about most businesses accomplish what they want to in the last 12 weeks of the year, the last quarter. So he talks
yeah.
about doing your whole year of goals in 3 months. And I'm a go-getter, I'm a doer like
Yeah.
you guys. And so I'm like, ooh, that excites me. Like that motivates me to want to go to work, right? So that's a great one. I mean, there's so many.
Okay,
How to win
that's-
friends and influence people. I mean, you could go back to
that's a
all the
good one, yeah.
classics. Atomic Habits.
Who
I mean, I
Moved
could go
My
on and on and
Cheese?
on.
Did you ever read
Right.
Who Moved My Cheese?
Yes.
That was a-
Oh,
that was a
but let me
must.
just say right now, Living Fearless by Jamie Winship. He talks about your identity and who God calls you to be.
Living
that
Fearless.
one, I'm telling you, and Google Jamie Winship in any podcast format and look at any of his stuff. He was fascinating. He was a police officer, and then he went on to be in like, I mean, he didn't work for the CIA, but he worked for them, if that makes any sense. And he basically converted terrorists to Christianity.
Oh my gosh,
And
geez.
went into all kinds of crazy situations. So.
That's kind of like what I
Jamie
did with
Winship.
Steve. I'm gonna write a book.
I'm
My
a
book-
that every
believer.
day. You're
my
in real
book has always
estate.
said, shit Steve says. That's what my book is. If you could have dinner with a dreamer from history, anybody, who would it be?
You know, oh, that's so hard. There's so many good ones. I mean, honestly, I mean, really, truly, I would probably, my mom is gone. I would probably go with her. I think the coaching ability that I have came from her. And she was one of those people that literally just her essence of who she was rooted in peace. So it didn't matter what was going on, the chaos, the roller coaster of life. Like I could be around her and her energy was content and peaceful. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I mean, not only because I love her and hate that I had to go through the last 8, almost 9 years without her. I was like, really? Mom?
Yeah.
Like they're about to be teenagers. Could you not?
Why are you doing this
Yeah,
to
right?
me?
But I would definitely say
Why
her.
are you doing this with me? If you could have yourself, besides what you're doing now, because it seems like you've reinvented yourself every so often.
Yes.
If you could have any dream job, money was no object, what would that be? Where would you put yourself?
I would be a podcaster.
You would be. Well,
Because
look at you.
I
You're
love
living your dream.
I
job.
really love hearing people's stories and inspiring other people to go live their dreams. Like that's the thing. And I'm like, if I could just get that out to enough people that they have hope again. Like, don't you feel like even though COVID's over and even though we're kind of past it, like people are still in a bit
There's
of
a
a funk.
lot of people that have no hope.
We had the
Lots.
funk, then we had the election, and now everybody's in kind of a little bit of like worry. You know what I'm saying? And
Yep.
it's like if I could give people that hope and not only what they can do, but like the dream life that they really want
Yeah.
is possible, I would give it to them.
I feel it's the opposite.
Do you?
I'm feeling more energized and more.
I love that,
Well,
Michelle.
yeah, we are too.
I love that. But you guys are also in my same type of mindset.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, think of your friend. Like a lot of people, I think, are stuck in that. So.
I was going to say, I think there's a lot of people that think this funk that they're in right now, because it's the worst of all times.
It's self-induced.
No, well, but it's not the worst of all
what you focus
time.
on.
There was World War I. There was
Yes.
World War II. There
Yes.
was the War of 1812. I mean, those were really, really hard times.
Suck it up, buttercup.
Famines
Yeah.
and floods. Yeah,
Well, and back to you don't control a lot. Like don't
Yeah.
worry about what you don't control.
Yeah.
Focus on what you do control because you
Right.
do control enough that you can make a
Yeah.
difference.
You can't
Yeah.
control what you can't control.
Yeah.
Okay,
Amen.
so now I have 2 more questions really quick. Where's the best place in Drip for you to sit and catch up with friends?
Okay, well, I love Nectarine. That's new.
I haven't been
Have y'all
there
been
yet.
there?
Been there yet.
That's
No.
really beautiful. They have really great coffee. They're soon to have their whole food menu, but now
Yeah.
they have like juice stuff. But Root Line originally was there, and they
Yes.
made a beautiful space. And Nectarine is kind of taking it to
Oh,
another
okay,
level.
all right.
And they have this beautiful patio. But I do want to give a shout out to Arit Man and Driftwood Axe
I
House.
love Arit.
Yeah.
We
I love
her.
Arit as a person, but her place is really cool and it's kind of out there and people don't know about it.
I know.
And have you thrown axes? Because like talk
have.
about stress relief. You could put people's pictures on the axe thing. Like for Valentine's Day, people were putting their
Sign me
husband
up.
up. they're probably
Steve.
No, I don't wanna
just
do that.
teasing. But like stress relief.
That's a good idea. Okay, so now the last one, this is near and dear to my heart because I get made fun of all the time, and so does Steve.
Okay.
Today, my husband asked if I was going to run track today, and Cedric, my coworker, asked if I was going to go play for the Boston Celtics. You'll see in the picture that we
That's
have.
hilarious.
And then Steve, I'm surprised he's not wearing a denim shirt. But
Sort of
do you-
denim.
As far as outfits, because
Yes.
I do, like whenever we do a podcast, I try to wear something different when I take a picture with a guest.
And I don't
And
care.
he doesn't. He doesn't care. Do you stress about what you wear on camera? Do you like look and see what you wear, or you like?
I mean, not
Or is
totally.
it- am I just
try.
psycho?
I just in my mind, this is how I deal, Michelle, because your beliefs can just serve you. They don't have to be true. I mean, you can't just decide
That's
something
actually
because it's
very
serving
profound.
you, right? So in my mind, most people just listen to my podcast. They don't watch the YouTube channel, and the social media is just a little blip. So it doesn't really matter what I look like. But I will say, everybody needs a Holly. Holly will tell me, Joan, you gotta wear some new things because I tend to have, I mean, everybody has the go-to outfits in their closet, and that's what you tend to wear.
Do you know how you fix that, Joan?
What?
You get a uniform. You wear the same thing
Yes,
every
that would be
time.
the other thing I could do.
Yeah.
That would be the other thing I could do.
And that's
Also,
what I
is
do.
Is that what you do? Is this
No,
your outfit? Okay.
And everybody
But I,
needs
I'm gonna show
but
you
I
my
am
life.
sort of a template. It's always like, it's usually like
Similar.
khaki pants, dark shirt. That's
Okay.
usually my thing.
Did you hear what I said? I said everybody needs a Michelle in their life too to tell them that they're wearing the
to,
same thing.
to give them
over and
crap
over
because
again.
they wear the same things.
I
but-
know. You know I love you,
Yeah,
Steve.
I know you do.
I
Well,
love you.
Joan, this has been really fun. Thank
Yay,
you
I'm
so
so
much for
glad.
joining
Thank you
us.
for
And-
having me.
Yeah, I wish you the greatest success in your coaching
We
career.
would
you
love
so
to hear
much.
about that networking thing too. So you
Absolutely, I will
hook us up
absolutely-
with that,
Yes.
and we will.
Yes.
we'd love to be able to network with
I'm
some
seeing
people.
a REIT this afternoon because we're going to hold it at Driftwood Axe House. So I will
Oh.
let you know the date probably later today.
Well, wonderful. Ooh, we're going to hold it at Driftwood. Well, there's
that's
my
fun.
perfect opportunity,
Yeah.
Steve.
Well, thanks for joining us, Joan.
Thank you guys so much. God bless what you're doing. It's amazing. Really, this podcast is really great for the town, and I just think it's really inspirational. So
Well,
thank you guys for
thank
what you're
you.
doing.
Thank you so much for that. Talk to you soon.